so mooi.
Het was fout om uit te komen.
Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to Mitchell's Plain Day Hospital Garden, the second workshop, because the first one was the actual activation. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cindy Knowles. I'm from Seed to Community, and we have partnered with you guys and your coordinators to secure your food security at home, and we hope that this journey will be a great one. We are just waiting for some funding so that we can help you guys even more. But in the meantime, we will be giving these, what did we say, monthly workshops, so that you can have a holistic understanding, you know, of gardening, because it's not only gardening, it's everything around it. So we're trying to do a sustainable approach. We are trying to give a permaculture approach. So who knows what permaculture is? Permaculture. Okay, so permaculture basically is when you are symbiotically, which means together working with your environment. Whether it's people, whether it's plants, whether it's the soil, you are creating an ecosystem. So you know in the garden you have your everybody, every little organism and insect and thing plays their part. So the ants do their part, the microbes do their part, the snails do their part. They can be pests, but they all form part of the ecosystem. So they have a role, a positive role to play on either each other or one of the other. You know, that is how it basically works. So permaculture is the holistic concept of how you interact with those ecosystems. So how you interact with people to create those ecosystems. That also plays a part in permaculture. How you interact with your plants, because plants also have sensory nerves, so to say. So they can feel emotions, they can feel because just like us, they also have lots of water. So though that water gives frequencies, and they can actually identify the owners. If you speak positive words to them, they grow better. If you speak negative words, so you don't nurture them, they also don't grow so well. So you can see by just that type of interaction how permaculture concepts actually work. So you need to
Sorry, we late.
No,
Sorry. Mornings, everybody.
So you basically need to interact with your environment in a positive way, so that you are nurturing your plants and the ecosystems that they work in. So that basically is permaculture and how permaculture concepts work. So when you think of your garden, it is not just planting and watering and maybe fertilizing and maybe some pesticides or whatever. It has to go beyond that. It has to be a permaculture concept. And that is what we're going to bring to you today, is that other aspects, and down the line we'll also bring the other aspects, but these aspects that most people overlook and think is a nuisance is called weeds. And today I'm going to talk about the positive impacts that weeds have, mainly on the soil. There are other positive impacts as well, but that's for another day. So today I'm just going to focus on how weeds are beneficial for soil. So the presence of weeds can basically be a two-edged sword. And so today we're going to talk about weeds and sustainability. Because what is sustainability? It basically is ensuring that something lives long even after you started the process, that there's a cycle that continues, that it can feed itself, that the loop can continue. If you are not there, for example, will that cycle be able to continue? That is the concept of sustainability. So what we want to ensure is that when we are planting our gardens, it's not just for one season, but it has longevity, so it has long life. So you want to nurture your soil, because your soil health is what is most important for your plants to grow. Because if you don't have good soil, the produce that you are growing is not going to be nutriently beneficial. So it's not going to have lots of nutrients, it's not going to grow well, you know, it's going to, other stuff is going to occur and so on. So the first thing that you have to ensure before you even plant your seeds or your plantlings or your seedlings is that you are getting your soil to a fertility level where it will be beneficial and prosperous for the plants to grow. It's like your home environment. If you don't have a good home environment, you're not going to really thrive well as a person. So your environment is what basically cultivates you and who you are and what you can give. So it's the same with the plants. If they are not getting the right foods, if you are not getting the right foods, you won't be a healthy person. You'll be sickly because you are not getting the proper nutrients that you need. So the same with the plants. If they are not getting the proper nutrients that they need, they are going to grow, but there's not going to be much nutrient value in them. And also there will be all other kinds of things, and sickly plants attract more pests and more sicknesses because they also, as you know, get sicknesses and so forth. So the aim is to first start with your soil, and you want to build your soil, you want to nourish your soil, because your soil health is what will determine the health and the sustainability of your vegetables. Okay, so I'm going to speak about how weeds are going to improve your soil health, or the impacts that weeds have on the soil. Sorry, it's hot. Now, weeds can be known as a two-edged sword. Most of us know it as it's only bad. And so as soon as you see a weed, you want to pull it out. But today I'm going to talk about the benefits that weeds actually have to your health and to the soil health as well. Weeds can also add to food security, in that they have a lot of nutrient value and culinary value as well, as enriching the soil. So I'm going to go through what some of those are. So then ultimately your weeds add to your food security and your sustainability of your garden. So weeds also play an important part in the ecology or the ecosystem of your soil's environment, and each different type of weed has a different aspect and attribute that it gives towards the soil and the plants, the vegetables that is around in the area. So the positive things about weeds are it really helps with soil health. So there are different things in how it helps with soil health. The one is soil stabilization. So this is when it helps the soil prevent erosion. So we know what erosion is. It's when the wind blows it away or the water washes it away. And so the plants can't live without soil base. Well, they can, but I mean they need the soil as the nutrient medium. So they help stabilize the soil. So that means that it stays put, it isn't eroded. They help with soil aeration. So aeration is basically breathing. And a lot of soil is compacted, and compacted means it's so stuck and tight and you can't, loosen it. And you need to loosen it because just like us, we need to breathe. The plants also need to breathe. Yes, they need carbon dioxide especially, but they also need air as well. And the soil needs air because there are lots of microbes in the soil that add to the growth of the plant. So once again, soil health is important not only because it feeds the plant, but also because of the microorganisms that you find and the other animals that you find in the soil. And there are a lot, that's like a whole lecture for another day. But there's a lot of microorganisms that is in the soil, and if you feed it properly, if it gets the proper nutrients, if it gets the air, if it gets the water, if it gets all these things, it actually nutrifies the soil as well. It is beneficial to the plants. So weeds help with soil aeration. Then you get nutritive cycling or nutrient cycling. So what is that? That basically is sometimes because of erosion, because of ecological factors like smog and environmental impacts and so forth, the topsoil is really bad. But a lot of the nutrients can be stuck deep down at the bottom of the soil. So nutrient cycling is basically where something helps pull out or suck out the nutrients that's at the bottom and bring it to the top soils. So that's what we also do. They give that sort of digging of the nutrients and bringing it up and helping it spread across to the other plants that is normally at the higher levels of the soil. And so that then in essence enhances the soil's fertility, because now the nutrient level is increasing. Now there's more nutrients, now there's more vitamins and things that the soil can actually feed off. Okay, the next thing is biodiversity. So who understands or has an idea of what biodiversity is? Anybody? So biodiversity basically is the concept of permaculture. It is all the different things in the environment that work together. That is biodiversity and how they interact with each other. So weeds then give ecosystem support. And what does that mean? That means that it provides a good space, a good habitat, a good living space for different types of species. So you'll see, like we mentioned before, you get your insects, some are beneficial, some are not. You get your microbes, some are beneficial, some are not. You get your rhizomes and your microrhizomes and all these things, the fungi and the bacteria and all of that in the soil. Some is good and some is bad. Just like our gut biome, we have good bacteria in our gut and we have bad bacteria in the gut. And we need to get the balance of that so that we can be healthy, because our immune system is boosted from the gut health. So it's the same with the soil. You need to get that balance in the soil's ecosystem of all the different things that you find in the soil. Whether it's the nutrients, whether it's the insects, whether it's the worms, whether it's the microbes, whatever, it needs to create that balance. And like I said, they all work together. So it is, weeds also help create that balance of the ecosystem. It also then is a pollinator attractor. So what does that mean? Basically, some weeds have flowers. So those flowers attract your things that cause pollination, which is your bees, your butterflies, and so forth. And so when they attract those, that can then help some of the vegetables to pollinate. Like, you know, some of the like your pumpkins, your butternuts, your yes, exactly, and your baby mallows, they need to be fertilized because they come up with a male plant and a female plant, and somebody needs to sort of pollinate the two because they like with us, you know, we need to get together in order to make the babies happen, in order for the fertilization to take place. So those pollinators, the birds and the bees and the butterflies, they do that job. So weeds can attract them so that they come to the area and then they cross-pollinate, or they pollinate the proper things to the proper thing. So they take the male pollination and they go and they spread it in the female plant, and that basically is how the pollination process happens. So weeds are beneficial in that way as well. Now, weeds also help with pest management. It is a pest deterrent, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are pest deterrent. because some weeds actually repel, and they can also attract beneficial insects and pests. So that also helps with with the reduction of pesticides or herbicides or whatever you're using, because certain weeds actually do that action for you. And then you get cover crops. So again, if you have like very sandy soil that blows very quickly, these cover crops help to contain the soil so that there's enough soil and the nutrients and everything can then be built and that ecosystem can then survive and stay, because when the soil is disrupted, the ecosystem is disrupted. So cover crops also really help a lot. And those are mainly weeds that are cover crops, like purslane and so on. Then weeds are also resilient. So how are weeds resilient? They are climate adapters. So basically you can learn from your weeds just by watching them and identifying how they react to the environment, how they react to climate change. As you can see, the weather's all over the place. Plants are used to a certain type of weather and they grow in certain types of weather, but now, I mean, where did you see Cape Town being so humid? I feel like I'm in Durban. You know, this is crazy. But if you watch, and obviously your plants are also getting affected because they are not used to this, and this is not the type of environment that they thrive in. You know, because you get plants that thrive in that type of environment, but they grow there in that environment. Our environment with our climatic conditions are different. So that's why vegetation or plants are different in various areas, because of the environmental and climatic impacts that it has on the plant. That's why if you look at fynbos, you get various different types of fynbos in different areas. What you get there by now the mountain there by Constantiaberg and those, yes, those are very lush environments because it has orographic rain, which basically means there's a mountain, and then if there's clouds coming over that mountain, automatically it produces rain. That's just basically how it works. So when it comes over that bird, there are newlands. That is an orographic area. So when it comes over the mountain, it's always raining at that area, but because of how the mountain is situated. Whereas if you look at silver mines, that doesn't always happen. So it is how it is also structured that causes that type of impact. So you'll find the fynbos and the plants there are very different to what you'll find at silver mine, because there's maybe not so much rain. So they have a different type of flora, a different type of fynbos that grows there. And if you look at, if you're riding along the beach road with all the sand dunes, that fynbos is completely different, and yet it's all fynbos. So your climatic conditions impact the type of plant that grows there as well. So weeds help you identify what you need to do to help the plants, because they adapt. They are very adaptable. So you need to watch them and see how are they adapting to the weather challenges or whatever environmental impacts there are, and you can then see how you can help your vegetables and other plants then grow, or the type of things that you need to do to assist them, because the weeds are automatically, it's built in them, they automatically are adapting, but the vegetables can't adapt. They are set in their ways. They need this, they need that. Like I had cilantro, which is dhania, and I had asked someone to plant it for me because I was just too busy to plant it. And I told them they needed to plant it in a certain area, and they didn't, because dhania is a very finicky plant. It needs lots of moisture, it needs shade, it can't be in direct sunlight, it can't be too close to each other. You know, it's full of nonsense. It's like a woman on PMS type of thing, you know. So the conditions have to be really good for dhania to grow. But this child put the dahlia right in the sun, all on top of each other, all around the other stuff. So like in a few weeks, my dahlia was bolting. And it was like growing, it didn't even flourish to actually be dahlia. It just like went from seed to bolting, to flower. And I'm like, what is like, I didn't even know it was dahlia in the first place because of how it was growing. And that was directly because of the environmental or climatic impact that it was having on the plant. But had it been a weed, that weed would have adapted to the climate and it wouldn't have reacted in that way. It would have just still done the thing that it does. Like, I mean, wherever you go, you can identify a weed because it does the same thing wherever you see it growing. So if you see, let's take sow thistle for example, or dandelion.
Yes.
Dandelion grows the same everywhere, no matter what. That is why you can identify it wherever it is, because nothing impacts its growth or its characteristics or how it reacts to the environment. It does its thing, because that is what it does. So you can learn and take your cues from weeds, and in your mind you can then say, okay, what must I do to help my struggling plant in this type of situation? What must I do? So you also need to make notes and see, how is this thing adapting? How is it changing? How is it, reacting to this and to that? And then do a little logbook, and so that's how you can sort of nurture your own garden, because every garden is different. It's not the one size fits all type of thing. So as we know, gardening is a lot of work, but the rewards is tremendous. So put the work in now, learn the different lessons that you need to learn now, so that you can alleviate those problems in the future. Should something happen, that's why things go wrong and why you learn lessons, so that next time it happens, you don't do the same thing. You now learn the lesson and now you know what to do when it happens. So that is the type of attitude you need to adopt when you are busy with or at least looking at your weeds. So don't underestimate the value of weeds. They are really good. Try to have a mindset of permaculture, where everything works in its ecosystem. There's a place for everything. There's a place for every type of person. So it's the same with your garden. Now, natural indicators, it also basically will tell you what type of soil there is, what type of issues there are with the soil, because certain weeds only grow in that types of conditions. So that will also help you identify what your soil issues are, or what the issues are in the environment that you are growing your vegetables in. And so, by understanding and managing your weeds, you are able to create a sustainable environment for your plants and your garden and your vegetables. So again, what is sustainability? It is ensuring that there's longevity of your plants. It's ensuring that there's a next time. It's ensuring that what you are building now will continue even if you are not there. Because that's what you're ultimately wanting to build. You want to build food security. So you want to ensure, should whatever happen, your garden is able to continue either on its own or with minimal help, that type of thing. So you want to set up things, different watering mechanisms, and like I said again, you learn from your weeds how to adapt certain situations so that you can create a sustainable environment for your garden. Because food security is very important. We are going into a time where food will be scarce, where water will be scarce. So we need to start learning these lessons and adapting our gardens and creating the environment and the ecosystems for that time. So now is the time to put in the work so that you'll be okay when that happens. Okay, so weeds also, like I mentioned, creates ecological balance. So you have to have to ensure that your soil nutritional value, that your soil fertility is good. Because then you know your plants are going to be able to survive should whatever happen. Now the negative impacts of weeds are nutrient competition. What do you think that is? Exactly, it's greedy. So it basically steals the nutrients or takes more of the nutrients out of the soil or out of the environment. So there isn't left for the vegetables or the other plants. So that is also the negative side that we all know about. Because that's all we think of when we see weeds. It's just the negative side. So yes, that is a thing, but there are ways to combat it. And there is, oh, this is a tricky word, allelopathy. So allelopathy basically is certain weeds release chemicals that are toxic and dangerous for the soil, for other plants, for pests. It's sometimes their form of defense mechanism. Like you know, roses have thorns, it's their defense mechanism. Some weeds release toxic chemicals. That's also a negative thing. But you need to, which also can stop the growth of your vegetables or other plants. But you need to identify which weeds have that type of chemical. So research is also important. And then they are pest hosts. So some of them actually carry diseases that then leach off onto the plants around it, like grain mold or something like that. And it also carries pests, which can be a good thing in that the pests stay on the weed and doesn't go onto the plant. So sometimes you actually, like sow thistle, for example, attracts aphids. So you will see that aphids will sit and eat the sow thistle, whereas normally aphids ignore everything else in the garden and go straight to your vegetables. But if you have certain weeds in the garden, it actually is a deterrent and helps attract. But it's also the opposite of where it carries those pests, and then those pests can then go and eat the other vegetables. Unfortunately. But again, you have to learn from the weeds. Watch them, just like you watch your plants. Watch the weeds, see how they react, see what animals they are, sit on them, what grows around them, what doesn't grow around them. That will give you an indicator. Is it maybe allelopathy? Is it maybe holding or a host for pests? Is it maybe eating all the nutrition? Stuff like that. So you also need to monitor your weeds, but weeds are very essential for the garden and very important. So try not to just pull out weeds. Try and understand its purpose in your garden, and then maybe try and replant them, like maybe on the border or next to your vegetable bed or something like that, so that they are in the vicinity and they can still give their positive impacts that they give, because there are a lot. There's more positive impacts to weeds than negative. Exactly. So now you get different types of weeds. You get plant weeds and you get grain weeds. And the grain weeds normally grow in a more abundance, and that normally comes in the form of grasses and stuff like that, but there are all different types of grains. And then you get your plants, so all your different plants, and that like the singing nettle, and that's like what we're going to discuss now. So the first one is lamb's quarter. I don't know if you've ever heard the name lamb's quarter. I couldn't find one because somebody came to clean the garden while I was not there, and I pulled out all the lamb's quarter. But lamb's quarter has nutritional value, medicinal value, and it has soil value. But we're going to focus more on the soil impacts that lamb's quarter has. So lamb's quarter can be used as a replacement for spinach. It's very high in minerals and nutrients. So you can replace it with spinach, but it has like these leaves that look like that, green leaves, round leaves, and then they have on top like something similar to this, but not quite. But they have like these little beads or buds on the very top, not throughout the plant. Just on the very apex of the plant, they have these little beads, and that's how you can identify between that and this. But the leaves are bigger than this. Okay, they're more like fat and round, and they grow everywhere. But that's food. Okay, all the plants I'm going to talk about today is food, and what normally grows in all gardens or along the road or on the sidewalks. You'll find this everywhere. Okay, so what is lamb court? Lamb's court is also known as pigweed,
Pigweed, yeah.
and the scientific name is Chenopodium album.
Remember there's pigweed, yeah.
Pigweed, yes, that's what lamb's court is also known as, but not in South Africa. It's more an American term to lamb's quarter. So it gives deep taproot, which means that so it has this long
Yes.
taproot.
Very
It
long.
goes very deep into the ground, and this basically helps break up that compacted soil. And it also helps with deeper penetration for the plants, for the plants around it, because it's now breaking ground into the soil because of its long taproot. So it's breaking up the soil so that other plants can then now also grow deeper. And it also helps with water filtration now because that compactness isn't there. If you think of mud or clay, water can't really go through there, it mainly just stays on the top. So that's the type of thing that compacted soil does. Like you can't get air through there, you can't get nothing through there. So when it's broken up, then it can have proper water filtration, and obviously the water is needed for all the microorganisms and for the roots of the plant, as we know. It has a nutrient cycle, and as I mentioned before, nutrient cycles where the roots go deep and it pulls out the nutrients that's right at the bottom layers and it brings it to the top and it shares it with the other plants around it. It has organic matter, which basically means if you pull it out and you just throw it there, it decomposes and it adds nutrients back to the soil. That is why weeds are very good fertilizers. But you must not grow weeds. Most of these weeds that we are covering, that you find in most gardens, you can make fertilizer from it just by plucking them and letting them soak in water, and then use it because it has organic matter, so it really nutrifies and fertilizes the plants. And then it helps with erosion control, so it prevents the topsoil from eroding, from blowing away, from washing away if there's rain or anything like that. Then I want to talk about amaranth, which is this plant. Now amaranth has like sharpy leaves and it's got these little seeds. Now amaranth is actually an ancient grain. Okay, so plants have different versions of its kind in the genus. So this is the weed type, but then you get the actual grain itself, which grows like 30 times bigger, and that's what they harvest to use as grain. But this plant is the exact same thing. You can use these little knobs as grain. So you dry it out, you can pop it like popcorn. It's extremely nutritious as well. You can dry it out and then make flour from it. Amaranth flour is very expensive, very, very expensive. And then the leaves you can has a lot of nutrient value as well. It's got vitamin K and vitamin A in it, and so This you can saute with your onions, make a nice little stir fry type of thing, very nutritious. The main point is that it is a nutritious plant. It also has some medicinal value, but you can make flour from this. But the weed part of it and what it does to the soil is it's a nitrogen fixer. So who knows what nitrogen fixer is?
Soil needs, if there's too little nitrates, it will
Exactly.
then
So
balance
what are
out.
the main things that soil needs? It needs
NPK.
nitrogen, potassium, and NPK. NPK.
Phosphorus.
So that is basically what it needs. The main thing is that it needs nitrogen. So a nitrogen fixer is something that draws the nitrogen from the environment and it traps it in the soil. And then that trapping of it in the soil will boost the soil fertility a lot. So normally you would get, you would buy fertilizers or you would buy in NPK packs or whatever to fertilize and nutrify the soil, but nitrogen fixers or plants that actually do that for you. So they suck the nitrogen from the atmosphere, from other plants, and then they put it into the soil to help boost the growth of plants around it and the soil itself. It also is a nutrient recycler. Again, it draws the nutrients from the bottom. It is organic matter, so you can just throw it there on the soil. It will decompose and edify and nutrify the soil. It helps with soil erosion. So it also, I couldn't break the tap root. I mean, I couldn't break the root because it was too deep. But it also has a very long tap root. Most weeds, most beneficial weeds have very long tap roots. So it will help with compacted soil, it will help with aeration and water filtration into the rest of the soil at the bottom.
I need to bring my of course, so if you can go downstairs, of course we can go downstairs.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Yes, sorry. So I'm Renee Dynus, I'm the social worker at the facility. So we didn't plan to have the training here, so I put it just for the hour and a half, and they have a planned meeting already. That was planned like months ago for today. But if we can move down at the back there by the garden, would that be possible? Is it okay?
Everybody okay?
Okay. Ek kan vinnig net afloop en af en toe gaan na die garden. Sorry. Did everybody